So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Nick Ferrari does his homework and calls out the Brexit vaccine boost myth. So what happened was Helen Watley, or Hatless Helen, I think people call her, was on the Nick Ferrari show the day before, and she was talking about all this nonsense about the vaccine boost. And so maybe someone tweeted him, or maybe a producer got in his ear, but Nick Ferrari actually calls it out. So let's cut to the clip.
For Britain. What are the three best achievements since getting Brexit done, would you say, Minister? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Well, I'd say from the start, the biggest impact we've seen over the last couple of years is probably the Britain's ability to fulfil its own vaccine programme.
Well, you'll be aware.
So obviously, we know that's a lie. The regulator said that's a lie, but Nick Ferrari actually does his job.
Of course, the independent website Full Facts say that's not true, and even the boss of our own MHRA, Dr. June Rain, has also said that's not true.
Look at him, he's looking at him like you're talking nonsense, pal. You're talking nonsense, because that Tory MP, what's his name? Richard Holden, the Transport Minister, is telling fibs, and Nick Ferrari has called him out. Madness. I call madness in the British space on this day.
Not true. So
well, we could have
done it. Can we strike that one out?
You're absolutely right. You could.
What do you see? Do you see the 360? Do you see the 360? He gets called out, doesn't even defend his position. That's how weak they know their lies are. He didn't even defend his position. First, he says the vaccine boost. Then he has to U-turn on it because he gets called out by Nick Ferrari. And now my man's like, "Oh, you're absolutely right, and there's going to be a nonsense in this." So let's go to his excuse.
You could have done it within the EU, but
that's not what you said a minute ago, Chief, was it? That's not what you said 30 seconds ago.
I think the pressure, if we'd been in the EU to be part of an EU scheme, would have been quite unbelievable.
That's nonsense, because we were part of the EU once the EU were setting up their scheme. The EU set up the scheme before the vaccine had even rolled out. So, the argument, the pressure would have been too much and all this stuff. There was no pressure, Chief. They asked, do you want to be part of the programme? We said no. They said, all right, see you, chump. And then you had the whole scandal with AstraZeneca, and that was a whole different thing. But, they asked us, do you want to be a part of it? We said no. They might have asked us, are you sure? Because we can get the prices lower than you can. And we said, look, we're going to pay with British money, not with crappy euros. That's probably how the conversation went, let's be honest. But, he's pivoted on this really badly, and now he's going to a hypothetical.
Secondly, I'd also say I'd look at the UK procurement rules. So that's the rules on what the government can purchase and government can buy. If we'd stayed in the EU, we wouldn't have been able to give British preference to a lot of those things now.
What British preference were given to what products? Because unless he's talking directly about the corruption in the procurement schemes, that's it. Because if you guys don't remember, there was British, maybe not British made, but PPE within the country, right, within the UK, that we could have bought, actual good PPE. Instead, we bought it from crappy companies and some jeweler from America who had no experience in PPE or the medical field, and we bought B-grade PPE from them that was unusable. So he's talking about procurement now, which is an absolute myth, because the UK's procurement of PPE was a joke. It was an absolute joke.
We've changed those rules in a lot of spaces to make it easy to purchase from the UK.
So, potentially running into a WTO issue if you're impacting EU manufacturers and EU suppliers. So that's not great. We've already seen that with wind turbines. So we might see that again if the UK are going to follow through with this. So that's not good.
Than having to tender across the European Union.
So we're asking for less competition for goods to be supplied. Okay, then.
And thirdly, I'd probably say Solvency II, linked to some of our trade deals. That enables Britain to, which has already got a world-leading financial services sector, to ensure that we remain head and shoulders above the rest of Europe and out into the world, and able to trade more nimbly and to respond.
What's Solvency II got to do with trade? Big man, like Solvency II is to do with financial regulations, not to do with trade. You can argue maybe it makes it easier for people to buy shares or whatever, but that's not even true. The deregulation we're talking about with Solvency II is deregulating things like the insurance companies. They don't have to hold as much liquid assets. My man's like conflating everything. It's like Solvency II, probably like Australia deal. What's this, man? Like, what is this? My man's fumbled through the first question. He's come up with a nonsense on procurement for the second benefit. And this third one, he's merged trade with Solvency II. Like, you had the governor of the Bank of England say this, I think it was him and the head of the Prudential Regulation Authority, which deal a lot with financial stuff. I think they're part of the Bank of England. They had said that what you are doing with this deregulation is going to make it so pension funds are more likely to run out of money. So is that a Brexit benefit? Like, where are the wins here, Chief? You know, this man's talking absolute drivel. I'd be embarrassed if I was this guy, because within the space of a few seconds, right? He's gone from this, which is the vaccine stuff. Nick Ferrari interrupts him and says that's not the case.
June Rain has also said that's not true. So
well, we could have
can we
done
strike that one out?
You're absolutely right. You could have done it within the EU, but there's
what is this? What is the state of this country? Like this? Why is this man an MP? Why is he on radio? How is he like a junior minister, whatever his role is, a transport minister? The man's a moron. These, you know, when the right wing talk about NPCs, right, non-playable characters, people have stock responses. You know, these are talking points directly from a conservative CCHQ, the conservative spin doctors, right, who said, oh, whenever they ask you about Brexit benefits, just say Solvency II, the vaccine, and make up the third thing, right? This is absolute nonsense, and I've probably gone on this video a bit longer than I should have done, but Jesus Christ, man, like, you've been debunked by Nick Ferrari, a guy who's not known for his adversarial interviews. He fact-checked you using Full Fact, you know, a website that anyone has access to, and then this man's like, you're absolutely right, but here's a hypothetical for you, here's some nonsense, here's some Solvency II nonsense. Genuinely beggars belief that this is the state of it. Like, you know, the fact that I'm praising Nick Ferrari for doing the basics of, you know, interviewing is just madness, absolute madness. But, you know, this is the state of this country. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.